And I'm going to talk about my experiences as a Black Jewish woman and how, even as a rabbi, I still experience racism, homophobia, and sexism, and how the intersections of my identity as a queer, because I do identify as queer Black Jewish woman actually creates new forms of discrimination. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about racism in the Jewish community. And I'm doing that because I am a rabbi, and I want the Jewish people to do better. And so I live in the Jewish world, and so that is my part of my story. So as a rabbi who happens to be Black, and as a Black American, I've grown accustomed to experiencing racism in public spaces. As a Black Jew, I have watched many who benefit from white privilege make false assumptions about who is and who is not Jewish. In other words, I, as a Black Jew, regularly experience racism in Jewish spaces. Now, my experiences are not unique. Other Jews of color can relate to my experiences. In fact, I have never been in a Jewish space where at some point my Jewish identity has not been questioned, meaning I'm made to feel like I don't belong. Upon entering Jewish spaces, I have been asked multiple times if I belong. I have been repeatedly asked, often by strangers, am I Jewish? When I converted, am I an ordained rabbi? Or don't you have to be Jewish to be a rabbi? People ask me that because they just don't believe that a rabbi could look like me, and other questions. Now, this kind of questioning, and some might call it an investigation, even if well-intended, makes me and people who look like me feel unwelcomed. And even if I do not engage, I want to reply, I am often prevented from carrying on with my day, and I am bombarded by why white people, or you as a white person, need to know intimate details of my life. Questions like these send messages to people of color like me that we do not belong. And in order to belong, white people need to feel safe. So I'm going to next talk a little bit about systemic racism. When I use the word racist, I have no idea what your definition of racism is, but I do know that for many, it is the worst possible word that one can be called, because racism is associated with someone who is a member of the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, or someone who's a neo-Nazi. We may also think of American slavery and lynchings, and yes, those are all excellent examples of racism in our society. But focusing on those definitions of what it means to be racist keeps many white people from identifying racism in their own communities and in their daily lives, and understanding that racism has evolved. It also causes many to proclaim, I'm not racist, and I don't see color, and causing many, or at least it causes many in the Jewish community to say that they are not white. The problem is that saying that one is not racist also means that you are not doing anything to dismantle our racist system. And if one is colorblind and you don't see race, how will you ever see or understand racism? And how will you ever understand the racism that I, as a Black person, regularly experience? And how will you understand the racism that I experience from other Jews? And how will you understand the anti-Semitism that I experience? What I also want the Jewish community to understand is that for members of the Jewish community, seeing Jews through the lens of whiteness, many in the American Jewish community don't see racism in our communities, unless, of course, this happens to be on video. the assumption that within the Jewish community, the assumption that Jews are white renders Jews of color invisible, which results in someone like me not being considered as authentically Jewish or not Jewish at all.